Let's talk about this big topic when it comes to therapy, which is the fine line between unpacking the trauma of your past versus taking responsibility for your bullshit.
There's no versus. It's the same. See, if I say stuff happened to me,
Yeah.
which it happened to me.
Yeah.
And therefore I'm a victim and I can't help it.
Yeah.
Then I'm taking no responsibility.
But Gabor, in your book, The Myth of Normal, you wrote about being annoyed at your wife for not picking you up from the airport and how this pain was rooted in your abandonment as a child during World War II. And you wrote, "There comes a point when Hitler made me do it won't fly."
That's the whole point.
So what is the line between personal responsibility of you giving your wife some latitude versus blaming it on what happened to you as a child?
I'm not interested in the word blame at all. Just blame bores the hell out of me. I just want to know what happened. And if I understand that my sense of abandonment with my wife that shows up in my relationship, which is kind of a tendency of mine, and then my reactive withdrawal and into sullenness and distancing, which is my particular relationship style, is rooted in some deep childhood experience of being given away by my mother and getting the sense of abandonment. That doesn't absolve me of responsibility. It gives me the responsibility of making the distinction that what can I do to liberate myself from the impact of the past, so I'm not imposing it on my wife and my environment. So knowing the past gives me a sense of responsibility and actually enables me to be in the present. And as friend and colleague and teacher of mine, Peter Levine, says, trauma represents the tyranny of the past. And the whole point is to liberate ourselves from the tyranny of the past so that we're not affected, we're not under the influence, we're not dominated by the impact of what happened to us in our formative years. So that recognizing all that is taking responsibility. It's my responsibility to be in the present. But I can do that much better if I understand where those influences came from.
So what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to remember the past or what you're talking about? Or am I supposed to actually shake the Etch-a-Sketch and just be totally present and say that the past doesn't define me? Recently, I'll tell you this interesting story. I'm about to do this show on PBS called Finding Your Roots.
Okay.
And they gave me old photographs of my family. My mother has given me old photographs of my grandparents and my great-grandparents in India. And just looking at the photos moved me to tears.
Yes.
But this idea, this philosophy of looking at these traumatic events and your trauma doesn't define you, to me there's an implication, or you're implying, hey, you have to let that go. How do you dial this in?
Let me ask you, did your family go through that terrible partition and all the violence? And
yes, of 1947, yes.
On both sides, mass killings of Muslims, rapes, and all Hindus,
Yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, trauma is multi-generational. Okay, it's passed on from one generation to the next, not because we mean to, but because we do. It's just like it's a theme that runs through the generations. And I passed my traumas on to my kids. I didn't mean to, but I did. Your parents did. They didn't mean to. Your ADHD is a legacy of trauma. It's a legacy of stress. When you're, now, formulate your question again, because I really want to answer it. It's an important one, but just want to make sure exactly what you're asking.
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to say is, so often, the thing I love about my children, and when I really see my children, or when I'm on stage and I'm really connected to the audience, I'm actually in the present.
Totally.
I'm not defined by you're Hasan Minhaj. You were born September 23rd, 1985.
Yeah.
You were born in Sacramento, California. You're from an Indian American Muslim. I am just in this moment, in this period of time. I am with Dr. Gabor Maté. The time is 10:20, and I am having the time of my life. And I'm not bound by any weight of the past.
I get it.
There's a part of me that's like, on some level, don't we need to forget the past to move forward? Or at least forgive what that was to move forward.
So here's how I understand what I just heard you say.
Yeah.
When you're on stage, connecting with an audience.
Yeah.
You're in a genuine state of flow.
Yeah.
What's it called? State of flow.
Yes.
And
I'm not defined by the worst thing that's happened to me,
no, I
or
totally
the worst
get,
things
no,
that have happened to my parents
no,
or my
no,
ancestors.
you're totally in the present.
Yeah, I'm
You're
totally in the present.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're not defined by the tyranny of the past at that point.
Yeah, totally.
You're open. Now, flow is an interesting word because at that point, you would probably agree, although your personality and your knowledge and your wit and your mind certainly helps you, but there's something flowing through you.
Yes.
You're not creating it as such. You're the vehicle for creation.
Yeah.
Would that be accurate?
Correct.
Okay.
It feels like magic.
Yeah. Well, it's the same way when I'm on stage and I'm talking to an audience. Like I'll be talking to 3,500 people here in New York tonight. Believe me, I'll be in a state of flow.
Yeah.
And I'll be present. Next morning with my wife,
Oh no! Don't say it. Don't say
I
it.
might not be in that state of flow.
Oh no.
You know, so there's something happens with people that have that sensitivity and that creativity, and that's where art actually comes from. And when there's something greater that moves through you, that's not defined by the past.
Mm-hmm.
So that's true. And part of my problem is that I love that state so much. It tends to be a bit addictive to go there
Sure.
and not to deal so much with the messy, nitty-gritty reality of everyday life,
Yeah.
which is a lot more full of stumbles and blockages.
Yeah, and just traffic and responsibility.
Yeah, and the laundry
complications
laundry.
Totally bureaucracy,
Yeah,
nonsense,
all
and
that
phone
stuff,
calls.
you know.
Yeah, totally.
But I get it, and that's a gift that you have, you know. So,
But I also want to hold both of us accountable here. Is at what point does character come into play? I'll give you an example.
yeah,
You hear this often, specifically with guys and their dads. My dad had a temper.
yeah,
He was like a rice cooker that could explode. Yeah. Many dads had this, and there's two types of children. There are some people that temper gets retweeted, and there's other kids where like, I will not blow up. I will not be that person. But I feel that Tasmanian devil of dad inside of me.
Well, first of all, I was one of those dads. My son Daniel, with whom I wrote The Myth of Normal,
Yeah.
he actually writes in the book that growing up with me in that family, it was like when the floor wasn't the floor. You never knew when the safety and the security would disappear and the floor would just open up because there would be these emotional explosions, you know. But what do you mean by character?
Character means there's a choice you can make to break the cycle. You have your wits about you. You have agency. You know what you're doing. This is why I sometimes go into the self-hatred thing. Come on, man. You know what you're doing. This is me talking to myself. I'm not talking to anybody else.
Do you know something? I have had the experience of going into a rage, watching myself going into a rage, knowing that it wasn't right, and I had no power not to go into it at the same time. Now, I'm not making excuses. It's my responsibility.
Yeah.
And I know the harmful impact on the people around me. But here's what happens. There is a part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, the gray matter, right here in the front.
Uh-huh.
And then there's another part here called the orbital frontal cortex, which is next to the eye socket. It's like right here. When people go somebody's local, that's what that's what they're pointing at.
Oh, they're pointing to the upper right.
Yeah. The job of this part here, amongst others, is what's called response flexibility. That when something happens, I have the flexibility. So if my wife doesn't show up at the airport to pick me up, I could respond with rage and disappointment and a sense of abandonment, or I could say, "Oh, that's disappointing. Too bad. I'll take a taxi home." That's called a response flexibility. This part here, impulse control, when an impulse arises, I don't have to act it out. I can say, "Oh, I'm feeling anger," but I don't have to act out the anger.
Sure.
And the impulse regulation. Now, in certain people, these circuits don't develop as well as they should, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, at that moment, the deeper emotion-laden, defensive and aggressive circuits of the brain take over. So when you say somebody lost it, I just lost it. What did they lose? They lost impulse regulation
Yeah.
and response flexibility. Those are trauma effects.
But
No. Here's what I'm going to say.
sure.
That's not an excuse.
Yeah.
I'm not here to excuse anything.
Yeah.
But I'm saying is if you realize that about that, it's your job to go to work, to grow up. And growing up, I don't mean as a moral imperative. I mean, get into therapy, do something to develop these circuits. Do something so that you can be a responsible human being. That's totally on me.
Yeah.
So I can't use the past as an excuse, but I can understand the past
Yeah.
to know what I have to overcome,
But
what I have to,
I think, Gabor, and I mean this, as someone who's a fan of your work,
yeah,
I think Zoom therapy is overrated. And I know you're a therapist, but it because it's passive. You need to be active. I'll give you another example. When I was a kid, my cousins will tell you this.
yeah,
Okay. My cousins and other friends that I went to school with. I was a smaller kid and I would sometimes get bullied
yeah.
and I would bite. So my cousins have told me this. My sisters told me this when you were
You'd
little.
bite, you said?
I would bite other kids.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would feel threatened and I would bite them, usually on the forearm or upper arm where it's kind of fleshy and doughy. I would say, oh, there's some babka. And then bam, and I'd hit him. Top two teeth, bottom teeth. And I was a biter. I'm 39 years old. I almost never bite people now.
I'm relieved to hear that.
Yeah, I haven't bitten my sister in 2 years,
Oh, that's great.
at least.
Congratulations.
What I'm trying to say is I made a choice to not bite. At
At a-
some point, I had to say,
At a,
I'm not biting.
At a point when you had the maturity to make the choice.
Yes. Then let's talk about that then. What is the age of, come on, man, this isn't serious. You're being unserious. You have to grow up.
Well,
I totally own what you're saying. You're like, Hasan, you're being emotionally.
and by the way, let's just go
immense.
back to your biting.
Yeah.
If you're a small kid being bullied,
Yeah.
can you see how biting might be a totally natural response?
Oh, I totally got why I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a natural preventive defensive response.
Yes.
And it's an explanation. It's also an expression of your own frustration. You
Yes.
know? A more interesting question is when you're bullied, who did you talk to about it?
Nobody.
Sorry?
Nobody.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where your trauma was. If your kids were bullied, who would you want them to talk to?
Hopefully me.
If you found out that your kids were bullied and they suffered and they didn't talk to you, how would you explain that?
Can you ask me the question again? I'm sorry.
I'm asking a question, and I know this is a hard one.
Yeah.
And this is typical when people's minds go offline.
Yeah.
Because it's a painful one. If your kids were bullied
Yes.
and they suffered humiliation, shame,
Sure.
pain, fear,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
and they did not talk to you about it, how would you explain why my kids are not talking to me?
Oh, I couldn't explain. I'd be very hurt. I'd be sad that they didn't tell me.
Yes, but I'm not asking you how you'd feel. I'm asking you how would you explain why they're not talking to you?
Probably because on some level, I have not created a channel for them to talk to me, or they're
They don't-
processing. They don't have.
They don't feel safe with you.
Yeah, they don't feel so. Yeah,
They
probably.
don't. They don't trust you.
Yeah.
What's it like for a kid not to feel safe and trust with the parents? What's it like for a kid? What
Oh,
would
it
be,
must be terrifying. Yeah, it's terrifying. Yeah.
that was your childhood.
You know, my parents listen to this podcast. They're not going to be happy with this.
Well, your parents did their best.
Yeah.
They did their trauma. I did my best with my kids. I'm telling to your parents, and your parents are probably close to my age. I don't know, but
Yeah, they're a little bit. Yeah, they're around your age. Yeah.
yeah, dear parents of Hasan, you did your best. That was your best
Yes.
because of the traumas that you had undergone.
Sure.
So there's nobody's being blamed here. But what I'm saying is that there was a trauma there for you of not having that safety and security.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about therapy, it's actually about understanding all that stuff, but not just understanding it, working it through the body so that it doesn't dominate you anymore.
Yeah. You understand right now, though, Gabor, there's two major camps here when it comes to parents and forgiving parents.
Yeah,
And I'll tell you what the two camps are.
yeah,
And this really is the Democratic and Republican Party of
yeah.
parent therapy. Okay? There's two camps.
Mhm.
There's number one, and this has been a huge movement, radical transparency. Talk to your parents at Thanksgiving, tell them how you feel, tell them what happened, and bring receipts. And then there's another camp, which is your parents did their best, live and let live. But I have a lot of friends, and I did go to therapy, and this is where the therapist did lead me down the wrong path, where she said, unload the clip and just go rat-a-tat-tat.
Okay,
Dad, you're always late. Dad, you're a psycho. Mom, how many times have I told you The iPad goes here. Dad, stop texting me. Hi, this is dad. The whole thing.
Well, look, if you're presenting with two bad choices, then there's going to be no way out. But I don't see it as split into those two camps, one or the other, and there's no other reality.
I think radical transparency and demanding mea culpas from a 76-year-old with a hip replacement is the equivalent of you pulling out a Tommy gun and shooting up an old man.
My son Daniel and I are writing a new book.
Okay.
It's called Hello Again, A Fresh Start for Parents and Adult Children. It's got nothing to do with demanding mea culpas. It's got nothing to do with taking a machine gun and shooting some 76-year-old with a hip replacement. It's got to do with each partner, each person understanding their own role in a relationship and their own responsibility in a relationship. Your healing does not depend on blaming your parents. It does depend on understanding what happened to you, but understanding what happened to you doesn't mean blaming your parents. Fact is, you were bullied and there's nobody for you to talk to about it. That's deeply painful. And that happened in your family of origin. But I'm not blaming your parents. Your parents did their best. It's for your parents, should they choose to recognize what happened and to say, you know, Hasan, that was reality. That was our reality.
Right.
But your healing doesn't depend on them acknowledging anything.
Yeah.
You don't depend on them for your healing. That's totally your responsibility.
So
I don't see this dichotomy
really
between the two.
you're saying both things can exist at the same time. They did their best.
Yeah.
And by their best, then as children, do we owe them some gratitude for doing their best? I mean, that's quite the effort. If you were in the gym and you did your best,
Yeah.
your personal best on bench press,
You see, I'm
you
not.
deserve some credit.
I'm not interested in owing. Owing is like a should that you lay on. So I don't tell anybody what they should do.
Okay.
I'm saying that when somebody recognizes that yes, my parents really had issues that prevented them from seeing who I was, from supporting me the way I needed to be supported. So here's the thing I would ask you. Are you the same person now that you were 30 years ago?
That's a complicated answer. I would say yes and no. In some ways, people who grew up with me are like, you're the same guy I grew up with.
Yeah. In terms
And
of
then in other ways, I'm a very, different person.
So you've been able to grow.
Yeah, I've been able to grow and change.
Now, the more you're able to grow, and the less you are under the effect of the past, the more gratitude will naturally arise. So I'm not saying to anybody you should be grateful. There's no point in me telling anybody how they should feel, but I'm saying that gratitude. I can tell you a quick encapsulated story if you like.
If we're not pressed for time, please share the story.
I'm not pressed for time.
Okay, great.
So this story of my own infancy, where I'm 11 months of age, and my mother gives me to a total stranger.
Right. This is during World War II, during
Second World War.
Yeah.
Nazi-occupied Hungary, severe, vicious anti-Semitism, threat of genocide, and I'm sick, and I'm hungry, and my mother just can't keep me alive. So she gives me to a stranger in the street.